listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again today. We have another show with our special guest. We have Darlene Greene. We're going to talk everything about her military career. She's a former Navy commander that leveraged experience in military to help veterans and also their families with their physical and emotional health. She has an inspirational story with her husband that kind of launched everything. She has a website, IamReversingAging.com. We're going to learn everything about what she's been doing. So first and foremost, Darlene, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you, Shmaya. I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time. Like I said, thank you for your service. You've been with the Navy for over 26 years. What was it like for you serving your country and later finding out that you even have another cause that you want to do to serve your community?
Well, I really loved my time in the Navy. There was so much opportunity. You know, you get to go from job to job, and each job that I would do for probably the first 10 or 15 years, I would think, can I even do that? I can't believe they're imparting all of this responsibility to me. And each time I would step up and learn something new and figure it out and do it really well. I had some great, wonderful jobs, 3 commanding officer jobs. The last one, I was overseeing 1,200 people, 800 Navy and 400 Marines. And one of the things that I was able to do for them, part of our job was to prepare them to be deployed overseas to Afghanistan or wherever they were needed in the world. And what was interesting and unique about that time back in 2006, 2005, is that they were being deployed as individuals, not as units. And so what was happening is they were coming back from a war zone and they were hurting and they needed someone to talk to and they needed somebody to normalize their experience. And that's typically never the spouse. And since they were going alone and coming back alone, they felt very much alone and they were having some significant issues transitioning back. So worked with a team and set up a program called the Returning Warrior Weekend Workshop. And in that, we brought in like 120 of our warriors and their spouses, and we helped them understand that they weren't alone. We facilitated a curriculum that helped them to explain very serious issues like why they wanted to go back. Imagine being the spouse of someone who just comes back from a 1-year deployment. And then one of the first things out of their mouth is, I need to get back there. And that was crushing to the spouse. So what happened is, when you have all the spouses in a room and all the military, and then they ask like, how many of you want to go back? And everybody raises their hands. The spouse finally realizes, well, this isn't just about me. And it got them talking for the first time. And we normalized their experience we had some amazing guest speakers talking about everything from PTSD symptoms and the support network that around it, as well as what is transformational growth and how can you grow from these very challenging experiences. So it was a great weekend. We ended up doing that for our Arizona warriors repeatedly and then spread it through the Southwest region, at which point I retired, and it was then spread across the United States. And it is still in existence today, 17 years later. So I'm really proud of that and the people that were able to be helped by that. I've had people that didn't know had anything to do with it talk to me about this great program that they went through, and that made me really happy. And I love that it is something that has stood the test of time, and that I had people, even like the last one I was attending, I had probably 100 people walk up to me and tell me what a huge difference this had made to them, whether that was saving their marriage. I got letters that said this saved my life. So it was just really in the right place at the right time. And I am really grateful to the team that helped me build this program and the military that have seen to making sure that it's continuously funded and supported.
We're talking to our guest, Darlene Greene, here on Refocus Radio, and you have a story that involves your husband. This really doubles down on your passion to be an advocate for health and focusing on just helping people find root causes of issues that are causing illness and get out of pain without drugs or pharmaceuticals. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, Shemaya, this was, one of the things that I think was I was able to do the Returning Warrior Weekend program because I had had PTSD. I had been through pain. I understood depression. I understood anxiety. I understood all of the things. I knew EMDR. I knew that bringing that kind of therapist in would be helpful. So I think it was out of a sense of pain that I was able to see pain. And so that is the silver lining. My husband's story came out of nowhere a few years ago. I had married a Navy captain who did 30 years in the Navy and landed on an aircraft carrier 1,200 times, and just the nicest guy on the planet. And when he started this very significant neurological decline a few years ago, I was really worried what was going on. So we did a lot of investigation. And interestingly enough, it was hard to get a diagnosis because they'll tell you that early Alzheimer's, you can't really diagnose Alzheimer's until there's an autopsy. And so one of the things we did discover was that he had mold as well. And mold can present as Alzheimer's. And I actually had mold. So we began this effort to try to clear ourselves of mold, which is no easy process, by the way. But what I've since found out is that 70 to 80% of people that have Alzheimer's, it started with insulin resistance and mold. So we're checking out for your audience who doesn't know anything about mold. That's worth looking into. But what happened is we reached a place in time where he was diagnosed. They did a spinal tap. They said 99% sure he has Alzheimer's. Then I'm like, well, what do you do about that? Well, there is nothing that they have for that. In fact, the latest and greatest that came out recently that's supposed to be just so awesome gives the people that have my husband's genetic type APOE44 brain bleeds in 50% of them. So that was not a good option. So we were trying everything that I did a lot of research, and that's my nature to dig into research anyway. And we tried IV stem cells out of country, and we did that 4 times in a year because it needed to be done quarterly at very great expense. It was $10,000 for him. It was $10,000 for me. And we did that 4 times. We also, and really saw no results from that. That was the sad thing, is that we didn't see anything. And I literally just prayed, like, what is possible? So we tried hyperbaric chamber. That we did that 3 times a week for about a month. That actually may have made things worse. We tried ozone therapy, hydrogen water. We completely revamped the diet, including following the Dr. Bredesen protocol. So anybody that's got any neurological decline needs to know who Dr. Bredesen is and try and follow his protocol. It's fantastic. He's the only one I know of that's reversing Alzheimer's, actually. We added daily strength training, high intensity training. We worked on sleep protocol, all the things you could do, really. But still, my husband declined. So we were at a place in time where he was napping 3.5 hours a day, Shemaya. And that's the kind of nap where you kind of go check on someone to make sure they're breathing, because you're like, are you alive? And then even after those long days of naps, he would fall asleep at 7 p.m. He was completely disengaged from conversations because I think it was just too challenging for him. When he did engage, he was 3 conversations behind. He would ask the same questions 7 times in 3 minutes. And what broke my heart was that he was no longer even trying to be funny. And that's who he is. That's his personality. So when he stopped trying to be funny, I felt like I'd lost him, and he was really a shell of his former self. So somebody knew that I'd gone out of country for stem cells, and they said, hey, we're using something that has changed our family's life. And I mean, phenomenally so. And we can talk about that if we have time, but I was like, well, what is this? And she said, well, it elevates a copper peptide in your body. And by doing that, it activates your own stem cells. And what I didn't know then, but I now know, is that when you're 30, half of your stem cells are dormant. They're in there floating around. They're just not doing anything for you. And when you're 60, they're almost all dormant. So, my husband was 67, I'm 58, and I'm thinking, okay, well, we need to kick our little copper peptide up to get those stem cells working for us. So what we did was we started on the patches about 9 months ago. And in that very first week, he didn't nap at all. And he doesn't nap anymore. He didn't nap. He didn't fall asleep at 7 p.m. And he was so chatty. Shemaya, it was like a dam broke, And he had all this conversation. He had 2 years of conversation like stored up and ready to come out. And it was not just talk. He often previously would talk some kind of word salad and it would be hard to even understand what he was trying to say, but he was more with it and he was replying quickly and appropriately and not asking me the same questions over and over again. But what was really heartwarming is that he was funny again and he was flirty again and he was back to his original personality. So that was amazing. And then it just other neuro things kept happening. So the second week, he got amazing sleep. So we had previously recorded 15 minutes of deep sleep on average was he was getting. And in the second week, he got 1 hour and 25 minutes of deep sleep. And then in the 2.5 month mark, he regained the ability to whistle, which he had lost sometime earlier. And he's an amazing whistler. And he also regained the ability to drum to the beat. He also had his blood pressure drop 37 points from like 172 over 94 to 135 over 87. And then at the 5 month mark, he regained his sense of smell, which he lost 15 years ago. And that is amazing. I didn't know that loss of sense of smell is actually an early warning indicator for Alzheimer's. So if it's not associated with COVID or something else, it would be really helpful for your audience if they are having that issue to go get that checked out. And then a little bit of a vanity issue, but he had a very large bald spot that just keeps getting smaller and smaller every month. And instead of the gray hair he had there or the blonde hair that I've always known him to have chestnut brown hair grew in. And I was like, when have you ever had brown hair? And he said, well, when I was a kid. So anyway, it's just amazing. I will tell you, we have a long way to go. He is not in any way cured, and these products are not intended to cure, treat, diagnose, or prevent disease. They are in the general wellness category, but they help your body do the work to optimize. We have this innate wisdom in our body that knows what to do and how to do it. And so we not only noticed amazing differences for him, but I had issues, and I mentioned that I'd gotten the stem cells as well. My issues included 3 autoimmune disorders. I've been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome in 96 and fibromyalgia in 99 and POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia, since, 2004, maybe. And the POTS was so bad that I'd have to literally take a medicine that would increase my blood pressure so I wouldn't pass out. I would just black out, and I hit the corner of the tub one time and the corner of a wall one time, and I wouldn't even able to drive for 2 weeks while they tried to figure out what was going on for me. And ultimately they're like, you just have really low blood pressure. So I had migraines, rosacea, trouble losing weight because I'm 58 and postmenopausal, and, hormones are needed balancing and that kind of thing, body aches from the fibromyalgia and the chronic fatigue syndrome. And what I noticed right out of the gate was that ice wave, because one of the things that had happened to me was that I had broken my foot and sprained my ankle, and I'd been sort of in a chair for 5 months in pain. And the problem with that was my typical approaches to managing stress, which included exercise, walking, pickleball, all of these things that brought joy to my life and a social component, I was now doing without, and I was in pain. And what happened as a result of that is I got to see firsthand really how bad my husband was, because even just asking him to get me a glass of ice water was not possible. He could not do that. And I needed him to do that several times, and we'd have to walk through, and it was very, very painful walking him through getting me ice water. So it was very frustrating, and I was in pain, and I became depressed, and really depressed. Like I wanted to cry every single day. This is just not the life that I had thought I would be living. And it's just heartbreaking for any care provider to watch their loved one go through these kinds of declines. So I started patching, and the first thing that I noticed was the ice wave, which really took me out of pain. This is the first time I had been out of pain in 5 months, and that was amazing. I'm not somebody that does well with medicines anyway, and typically Percocet and Vicodin and all of the good drugs that maybe people think would really knock out pain don't really work for me. And this ice wave, which has no medicine in it, no prescription drug in it, it worked right away. But the second thing I noticed was energy and deep sleep and really an elevation of mood. And I think that probably happened in the second or third week. I don't actually know when I noticed that all of a sudden I wasn't depressed anymore. I was actually feeling joyful, and I was able to have live in a place of gratitude and really enjoy the things I could enjoy about my husband. I stopped having regular headaches. My rosacea cleared up at the 3-month mark. My skin became super soft. A dark spot just lifted off of my face. My pores got really small. I dropped 10 pounds sort of effortlessly. And I found I was no longer stress eating or emotional eating, which I have this calming sense over me that I feel like I finally have this normal relationship with food. I think I've probably always been a bit of a sugar addict or a salt addict or bouncing between the two of them, maybe even since high school. So to have this normal feeling around, you eat when you get hungry, you stop when you're satiated, and that's it. You don't really think about it until the next time. That's sort of been really huge for me. And then I just don't have the same body aches. I'm not aching all over with feeling like you have the flu from fibromyalgia or getting sick from chronic fatigue syndrome. So a huge difference for me. And then, of course, I made sure my family was all on these, and they had their own stories. And my sister's microscopic colitis that she had 6 years cleared in 3 weeks. And so there's a ton of people in my life that have really been tremendously changed by these patches that are using light therapy. They're non-transdermal. There's not even a drug going in your body. And I think that's what's hard to even believe about it is that we kind of know when we go out in the sun, the light of the sun causes our body to make vitamin D. And most people will say, yeah, I understand that. I go out in the sun, my body makes vitamin D, or melanin for a suntan. So we know light has these biochemical effects. That is called photobiomodulation. And that's really all that's happening with this patch. What it does is you have light inside of you. So if I looked at you with night vision goggles on, I would say light inside of you. And so this reflects your own light back into you at a very specific wavelength that then elevates that copper peptide, which then activates those stem cells.
Once again, talking to our guest today, Darlene Greene, U.S. Navy commander, retired, and you being an advocate for not just veterans, but people in general for this particular part of health. On your website, IamReversingAging.com, people can learn more about the research and studies, the clinical studies that back this in these patches. Kind of tell the audience a little bit about the research done and how they can be confident in learning more.
If you Googled in PubMed, GHK-Cu, you would find 50 years of studies. GHK is very well established and studied. So anything that you find associated with increased GHK in the body is going to be what is going to happen when you wear this X39 patch. And I'll tell you that includes the increased stem cells and production of growth factors, lung protection of lung cells, the brain, the nerves, the heart, anti-cancer, amazing anti-cancer, including topping 1309 bioactive compounds recommended for the treatment of colon cancer, resetting programmed cell death of human cancer cells, including human neuroblastoma, leukemia, and breast cancer cells, but not affecting healthy cells. In fact, there was a study that was done where it inhibited NFKBP65, which is believed to promote cancer and repair damaged DNA, and reset 84 genes to growth or cancer inhibition. So they've done studies on GHK that include skin and hair and accelerated wound healing and increased healing in all of the tissues and heart. So there's a heart study, there's a lot of heart studies for GHK. Well, first, let me talk GHK, and then I'll talk to you about the study done with X39. So for the heart, it reduced fibrinogen synthesis, which is the top predictor of cardiovascular heart disease, and it increased myostatin, which inhibits heart failure. There was a study done for X39, and there are over 90 clinical studies done on our LifeWave patches that you can click in my website and actually just look at you can read the studies, you can read the patents, you can go and learn more about GHK and go to the website that you can find all sorts of information there. But in this study that was done on the heart, in 6 weeks, participants saw their cardiovascular system began functioning as if it were 8 weeks younger. And I have a book called How to Reverse Aging, a Comprehensive Guide to Copper Peptides, written by Dr. John Harmon. And he talks about all the different ways you can get GHK-Cu, which includes injections or creams or the patches. And there was a doctor I listened to who talked about how she was giving 4 injections a day of GHK-Cu and was not getting the same elevation as our patch does. So I listened to Dr. Harmon talk about a story of his heart. He had what's called a right branch bundle blockage. And there's no surgery, there's no medicine, there's nothing to be done about that. And it's very life, ending. It's very problematic. Well, in 14 months on these patches, he went and re-scanned and his right branch bundle blockage was just gone. I think there's something to be said for what is possible with stem cells. There was a brain study. There's a ton of studies on GHK for the brain and how it reduces inflammation and how it promotes new blood vessels, and it even upregulates the 408 genes and downregulates 230 genes and modulates neurotransmitters and has got great neuroprotection. And there's a ton you can find on the brain in GHK. We did a study on X39 in 2019 by a SciTech study by Chevalier. And what he did was he used the EEG to capture people's brains before the study. And this was a double-blind placebo-controlled study before beginning X39. And then he retested with that EEG 3 weeks later. And then he retested 6 weeks later. And what you'll find is in the first EEG, you'll have a brain EEG that's red. And that red is, all red and maybe a little bit of yellow, but that red is a problem. It's hypercoherence. It means that the left and right brain hemispheres are not communicating very well. It means inflammation, and it's anxiety. It's the brain with PTSD or ADHD and just not good memory. So at the 3-week point when they retested after wearing X39, you wear it 12 hours on and take it off after 12 hours. And after 3 weeks, the brain mapping was totally different. The colors have come in yellows and greens and blues, and they look so much better. And people are reporting, I'm feeling calmer. My memory is better. I'm not so angry. And then at the 6-week point, they find a totally new map and a really beautifully balanced brain. And what the actual findings include increase the GHK-Cu, and it supported cell and nerve regeneration. It balanced the brain, improved coherence in the nervous system. It lowered anxiety and decreased brain inflammation, and it improved memory, focus, cognitive brain function, and task processing ease and speed. And I got to see that in my husband right away, and I got to feel it in my own body. And we have just a ton of people who have had PTSD and who have depression. And, this is particularly near and dear to my heart because of the high levels of suicide around the world, particularly veterans, right? I can't speak to enough veterans about the fact that there is a drug alternative that can help you not just mask the symptoms or kind of temporarily make you feel better, but actually go into your brain and calm it and reduce inflammation and serve it from the inside out to help the problem and the reason that you're feeling so bad. It doesn't always have to be EMDR and talk therapy. And as someone who's done all of those, this is the best thing that I have ever seen for the brain or for just taking care of even people who have had ADHD no longer have to take their ADHD medicine. After as quick as my friend that introduced me, her daughter was on ADHD medicine, and after 15 days, she never has given her another thing of ADHD medicine again. She is a different child. She used to be kindergarten, but she was 16 years old, but she had a kindergarten academically. She had a rare genetic disorder, not unlike autism. And by the 5-week mark, she was already at 4th grade. And by the time she was on these patches for, I think it was 10 months, her executive reasoning was registering as a 16-year-old when they were saying executive reasoning doesn't change, and it was not even registering previously. So what this can do and what's possible for this is astonishing to me. And I'm a little more than salty about the fact that I didn't know about it 2 years ago, because I did a lot of research And I'm especially salty when I find out that there were over 300 Olympic athletes that were wearing LifeWave patches in 2008 Olympics, and it's been featured in, 6 of Suzanne Summers' 26 books and all of these people that knew about this, but it's really not out there yet. It's certainly exploding, especially since the X39 came on the scene, because people are experiencing things like the rapid pain relief and the reduced inflammation and the wound healing and the energy and the vitality and the mental clarity. And it even improves sports performance and faster recovery, and the improved skin appearance. When my rosacea went away at the 3-month mark, I was elated, but nothing compared to just the lift of the depression, and the energy. So I was just like, well, how can this be out here? In fact, Ivory Sully in September was on a show, and he was talking about, he's for anybody who doesn't know, he's the 5-time NFL Outstanding Teams Player of the Year. He was talking about how Tom Brady is on these patches, and I was like, why isn't this more well known? Everybody hears about stem cells, and I know recently the FDA kind of clamped down on us because we, 2 or 3 months ago, I would have told you this patch elevates and activates your stem cells, but they've decided that your stem cells, even the ones in your own body, Shamaya, are a drug. So we can't say that anymore, even though we've got double-blind placebo-controlled studies that show that. What we can say is it elevates and activates GHK-Cu, and look at all the studies that, in fact, show that elevating GHK-Cu activates and elevates your stem cells. So yeah, there's a 40-year physician, an anesthesiologist, who said, this is the most significant medical breakthrough in my lifetime. And most people understand light therapy has been around for a really long time, but most people don't know about this. They just are sort of trapped in the Western medicine, doctor, patient. The doctor says you have Alzheimer's, so come back in a year and we'll tell you how far he's declined. That was really my choice. Or try this experimental drug that causes brain bleeds. And I'm like, these are very bad options. Never would I have ever thought about light therapy, though.
Once again, talking to our guest today, Darlene Greene. You can go visit her website, IamReverseAging.com. And in wrapping this up, in terms of holistic wellness, with this new opportunity, I don't know how new it is now, but it's new to someone right now, in the context of how wearable light wave technology for stem cell activation, how it's being used and making a great impact on people's lives. How do you see just professionals in the medical world and patients reacting to this opportunity as a new tool for holistic health?
Well, we have a lot of doctors, cardiologists. There's a plastic surgeon who is world famous and been on the Dr. Oz show, and the doctor is Dr. Adam Shiner. You can look at him on YouTube and see the differences of how it's worked for him in his practice. He has incorporated it so that his patients are using the patches 3 months prior to any of the surgeries he does, and then 6 months afterwards as part of their commitment to being his patient. There are many doctors using it with their practice, and other doctors, I have very dear friends that are doctors who won't even talk to me about it. Like, if it's not a drug, they're just not even open to it. And I'm sad for that, because they're missing an opportunity to help people heal and to help their health optimize. But I do think it's exploding, and many doctors are introduced to this by patients who walk in and, something they've been trying to help them with for years and years. They walk in and they're fine, and they're like, what are you doing that's making you fine? And that includes their blood work showing amazing results. I just got a text today about someone whose nurse practitioner was looking at their blood work and said, what are you doing? Your blood work looks amazing. And they're like, oh, I'm doing these LifeWave patches. And she's like, well, I want to know more about these LifeWave patches, because there are different patches for different things, and they're affordable. The X39 patch is $99 for a 1 month supply. Most people, even though that's still a lot for some, it's certainly not the $10,000 I paid for the IV of stem cells that did nothing. And this is having a dramatic effect. And the anti-inflammation patch is only $49 for a sleeve of 30-day supply, or the pain patch is $49 for 30 patches, which is a 15-day supply because you wear 2 for the ice wave. So very affordable, particularly when you compare it to maybe a copay of a drug with all sorts of side effects that nobody likes or that doesn't really work. It really masks the symptoms. And I think most of doctors in the world of medicine, they typically aren't looking at the root cause of the problem. They're masking a symptom to try to make people feel better with a drug. And what I love about this product is it's helping your body, which has this innate wisdom, go to the source and fix it. And that is miraculous to me. I actually have 2 doctors on this patch. And I was like, well, why didn't you tell me about it? Because I was like, well, what do you mean you like it, you wear it, and you're supportive of it? Why didn't you tell me about it? But I think doctors today are in this very sticky place, right? They can't even say vitamin C helps prevent a cold or the virus, right? So they have to be very, very careful with what they say. So I think you have some that are very, very careful in walking that fine line and others that are promoting it heavily.
We're talking to our guest, Darlene Greene, here on Refocus Radio, U.S. Navy Commander retired. And you can go visit her website. It's IamReverseAging.com. Man, with all this information, I feel like, and you probably can talk about a lot more things, especially with the testimonials that people can see visually on the website as well. And when you see the opportunity that people can get more educated on this topic, I mean, sometimes when people hear about holistic health, they're like, ooh, taboo, or ooh, I don't know. Because to your point earlier, we always want to respect our doctors and we always want to stay in line as far as who's the professional who's, been going to school for this for all these years. What do you see in the future as far as how people will use this type of information to make a judgment for their own health?
Well, I think the first thing they'll do is if they're willing to try it, and what do they have to lose? There's a money back guarantee. But if they're willing to try it, the company is really good about promoting overall health and educating the consultants that are helping to distribute the patches and the doctors that are helping to incorporate it in practices. I mean, we have a testimonial call almost every single night of the week. And there's a practitioner call weekly. And, I do a weekly call where people can listen and ask questions with a doctor on the call. I did a doctor podcast yesterday with a doctor that he's posting on his website. So I think that people, as they come to feel the difference in their bodies and they learn the power of water, that's the only requirement really with the patches is you have to drink half of your body weight in ounces in water. But you'll hear our founder and inventor talk about the importance of other things besides the patches. In his presentations and educational seminars, he talks about various supplements and the things that we can be doing, how important exercise is and how important getting deep sleep is and how important it is to get, all the colors of the rainbow of food colored by God and, all of these things that will help make a difference to people. I think people have so much more influence and control over their health than they give themselves credit for. And if they just sort of passively rely on a doctor to help make them well, then I'm afraid that they're not going to be very well for very long.
When people listen to this episode and they want to learn more about how they can get this product, what's the best way that they can start today? Yeah.
Go to that website, IamReverseAging.com. That's IamReverseAging.com. And there you can not only order the product, but you can also reach out to me. You can send me an email, tell me where you are. I will reach back out to you. I will set it up. If you would like to have a consultation with a doctor, I can do that. We can make that happen. If you would like to just understand all the different patches, the glutathione patch, the other stem cell activation or elevation of AHK, which activates stem cells, patch, the glutathione patch, any of the other patches that we have, a silent night for sleep, the energy enhancer for energy. If you're interested in these other patches, great, we can talk about them. But it's as simple as just starting with X39 and recommend Eon, the anti-inflammation patch, because inflammation eats up stem cells. And if we really want the best bang for the buck, we reduce that inflammation. But but it's just, you can just get, there is more information on that website than you can watch in a day or read in a day or listen to in a day. It's very extensive. And that's because I'm the person that wants to, I've listened to all of those videos. I've read every one of the 90 clinical studies. I am the researcher at heart, and I'm a little skeptical on most things right away, and do my homework first, because first do no harm, right? So wanted to make sure that we would do no harm. And so and there's so much more that they can learn and I can share. And there are entire YouTube videos dedicated to more and more information on each of these patches and more on X39. So that's the first place to start. And please do reach out. I would love to help people. I have heard of people going to eBay or Amazon to get these patches. You can't do that. They're not real. They're knockoffs. And people have had rashes and horrible things happen as a result of trying to save a few dollars. It's just not a valid way, that they're not distributed that way. So please don't do that. And know, you probably have a global audience. We distribute by mail to over 70 countries. This is not just within the United States. And I think that says a lot too. And this is a company that's been founded since 2004. So we are not a new company. We've been around and at the leading edge of phototherapy for over 20 years. So definitely check out the website, reach out. And I just hope that people have the fortitude and bravery to take charge of their own health.
For more information, go to the website, like she said, is IamReverseAging.com, IamReverseAging.com. We've been talking to our guest, Darlene Greene. I want to say, like always, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shamaya. I love your voice.